Hello, everyone, and welcome to Learning Lane. Today, we're taking a journey back in time to answer a question that changed India's destiny. Why did the British come to India? From trade and spices to power and politics, we'll uncover how merchants from a faraway island turned into rulers of the Golden Bird. Let's begin our journey on the Learning Lane. India for centuries was known as Sone Ki Chidiya, means the golden bird. Rich in spices, textiles, jewels, and culture, it attracted travelers and merchants from every corner of the world. But in the early 17th century, when the British arrived as traders, no one could have imagined that these merchants would go on to rule India for nearly 200 years. So, why did the British come to India in the first place? To answer that, let's step back to the 15th and 16th centuries, Europe's age of exploration. At this time, countries like Portugal, Spain, the Netherlands, and later France and Britain were competing fiercely to discover new sea routes. Vasco da Gama's arrival in Calicut in 1498 was a turning point. It gave Europeans direct access to India's riches, bypassing old land routes controlled by Arab and Ottoman traders. Suddenly, India was not a faraway land of legend, but a real marketplace of treasures. What made India so special? The answer lies in its natural wealth. Spices like black pepper, cardamom, cinnamon, and cloves were considered more valuable than gold in Europe. Indian textiles were world famous. Bengal's muslin, silk from Assam, and cotton from Gujarat were unmatched in beauty and quality. Add to this pearls, precious stones, indigo dye, and saltpeter used for gunpowder, and India became the jewel of global trade. For Europeans, gaining access to these goods meant unimaginable profits. The British entry began with trade. In 1600, Queen Elizabeth first granted a royal charter to the East India Company, giving it the right to trade in the East. In 1608, Captain William Hawkins arrived at Surat, and a few years later, Sir Thomas Roe secured permission from Mughal Emperor Jahangir to establish trading posts. At this time, the British had no political ambitions, they were simply businessmen. Their aim was to make money by buying Indian goods cheaply and selling them in Europe at huge profits. But India itself was changing. During the early 17th century, the Mughal Empire was strong, and foreign traders had to operate under its authority. Yet after the death of Aurangzeb in 1707, the empire began to weaken. Regional powers like the Marathos, the Nawabs of Bengal, and the rulers of Mysore rose, creating instability. For the British, this decline of central authority was an opportunity to move beyond trade into politics. The British were not alone. The Portuguese had arrived first, but their power faded quickly. The Dutch focused on Indonesia. The real challenge came from the French, who also set up their trading company in India. The rivalry between the British and the French led to several wars, known as the Carnatic Wars. Eventually, the British emerged victorious thanks to their stronger navy and better resources. Their greatest breakthrough came in 1757 at the Battle of Plassey, when Robert Clive defeated the Nawab of Bengal with the help of Indian allies. This gave the East India Company control over Bengal, the richest province of India, and changed the course of history. So, why did the British succeed where others failed? First, their navy gave them command over sea routes and secure supplies from Europe. Second, the East India Company was a powerful organization with money, weapons, and political backing. Third, the British cleverly practiced divide and rule, allying with some Indian rulers against others. Finally, Britain was entering the Industrial Revolution, which demanded raw materials like cotton, jute, and indigo, and also new markets to sell British manufactured goods. India provided both. Gradually, the company shifted from trading to ruling. After Plassey and the Battle of Buxar in 1764, the East India Company gained the Diwani rights, the authority to collect taxes in Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. With tax revenue and trade profits, the company became not just a merchant body but a political power. Over the next century, the British defeated powerful Indian kingdoms like Mysore under Tipu Sultan, the Marathos, and the Sikhs of Punjab. By the mid 19th century, the British controlled most of India. And after the revolt of 1857, the British Crown took direct control, turning India into the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. So, why did the British come to India? At first, the answer is simple: they came for wealth through trade. But over time, India's political weakness, combined with Britain's naval strength and industrial needs, transformed merchants into rulers. The British came for spices, silk, and profit, but they stayed for power, and in doing so, they reshaped India's history for centuries to come. And that's how the British came to India, first as traders, then as conquerors. What started with spices and textiles ended into centuries of rule. If you enjoyed this dive into history, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Learning Lane for more stories that shaped our past. Stay curious and keep learning.